The night had fallen heavy over Dubai, with its golden lights reflecting off the marble floors of the royal palace like stars caught in still water. Sheikh Hamdan sat alone in his chamber, the hum of the city faint beyond the silence that surrounded him. It had been a long day, a day filled with smiles, diplomacy, and the weight of responsibility that came with his name. Yet tonight, something more dangerous than politics awaited him. A temptation, one that tested not his power, but his heart. She had entered his life like an unexpected breeze, beautiful and disarming. Her words carried warmth, her eyes a promise of something forbidden. She was not like the others who bowed before him in rehearsed admiration. No, she looked at him as though she could see the man behind the crown, the poet beneath the prince. And for a fleeting moment, Sheikh Hamdan felt seen. But deep within, he knew that not every gaze deserved to be trusted. Some eyes lure the soul closer only to burn it. Temptation, he realized, often comes disguised as comfort. She spoke softly, weaving dreams of freedom and love without consequence. Her laughter echoed through the palace halls like music he had long forgotten. Yet beneath her sweetness, there was a shadow, a whisper that sought to pull him away from his values, his faith, his discipline. He could feel the war waging quietly within his chest, the desire to surrender versus the strength to stand firm. The test was not of will, but of wisdom. He walked through the palace courtyard that evening, his heart heavier than his footsteps. The moon glowed pale over the fountains, and the scent of jasmine filled the air. Everything around him seemed to invite surrender, to urge him to forget the lines between right and wrong. But the more the world whispered, the louder his soul reminded him who he was, a man born not to follow desire, but to master it. His silence became his defense, his dignity his shield. She waited for him beneath the palm trees, her eyes glistening with a daring mix of affection and defiance. "Why resist what your heart wants?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with both longing and confidence. He looked at her, his expression calm but unreadable. "Because not everything the heart wants," he replied, "is worthy of the soul." His words cut through the tension like the first light of dawn. For a moment, time stopped. She saw then, not a man rejecting her, but a ruler mastering himself. Inside, Sheikh Hamdan was not untouched by the pull. He was human, after all, with emotions that ran deep and passions that poetry itself couldn't contain. But his strength lay not in denying that truth, it lay in choosing discipline over desire. He had been raised to lead with honor, to guard not only his people but also his integrity. And so, when temptation came dressed in beauty and promise, he met it not with judgment, but with calm resistance. As she turned away, hurt by the rejection she couldn't understand, Hamdan felt both pain and peace. There was sorrow in letting go of what could have been, but far greater satisfaction in knowing he hadn't betrayed who he was. His heart may have burned with longing, but it was a clean fire, one that purified, not destroyed. For him, self-control was not a loss, it was a victory that crowned his soul. The days that followed were quiet. Rumors may have whispered about what had transpired, but the truth belonged only to him. He didn't seek to defend himself or explain. True virtue never needs witnesses. In his eyes, she was not an enemy, merely a test sent to remind him of his purpose. Some temptations come not to ruin us, but to reveal the depth of our strength. He returned to his writing that week, his pen dancing across pages filled with reflections of faith, love, and restraint. "The heart," he wrote, "is like a stallion, wild and majestic, but meant to be guided, not unleashed without reason." The words spoke to him, soothing the restlessness within. Poetry had always been his way of taming emotions that threatened to overflow. Now, it became his healing. Months later, when he saw her again at a royal gathering, their eyes met briefly. There was no bitterness in her gaze, only a quiet understanding. She had come to respect the boundary he had drawn with grace, realizing that his refusal had not been rejection, it was reverence. For what he felt was real, but he refused to let it grow in the soil of wrong. The years passed, yet the lesson of that night never faded from Sheikh Hamdan's soul. Every time he looked upon his reflection, he no longer saw just a ruler adorned in power. He saw a man shaped by restraint. That moment of temptation had refined him in ways that triumphs and titles never could. It was not the kind of victory that could be sung in poems or written in history books. It was quieter, deeper, more sacred. He had won a war that no one saw, a war between his emotions and his principles, and in doing so, he had become truly invincible. There were days when solitude visited him again, soft and familiar, like the desert wind that never truly leaves. In those moments, he did not feel lonely, but peaceful. He had realized that solitude is not the absence of love, it is the space where love becomes pure, stripped of temptation and pride. His heart, though still capable of deep affection, now moved with awareness. He had learned that true love never tempts you to betray your values. It uplifts you, it humbles you, and it guards your peace. Sometimes, he would wander through the stables at dawn, his favorite horse brushing its nose against his palm. There, in the stillness of morning, he would smile to himself, remembering how temptation had once felt like a storm. Now, he understood that storms are not meant to destroy, they are meant to cleanse the sky. His soul had been tested, and it had emerged stronger, clearer, and calm. Even the horses seemed to sense his quiet strength. They moved around him with a serenity that mirrored his own. The woman who once tempted him eventually married and moved far from the palace, her name whispered only in fragments of memory. Yet, Sheikh Hamdan bore no bitterness. In his prayers, he often wished her peace and fulfillment, for she had unknowingly played the role of a divine teacher. She had reminded him that temptation is not always the enemy. It is the mirror that reveals the true reflection of one's heart. In conquering desire, he had discovered discipline. In resisting impulse, he had found himself. As time went on, his wisdom became his most admired quality. People sought his counsel not because of his crown, but because of the quiet fire that burned in his words. When asked how he maintained such composure amid the chaos of life, he would simply reply, "The one who can master his heart can rule the world." Those who listened didn't know that the root